Hello to all of the viewers of the Amber Army channel. Welcome back to once again another vidcast. We've got the regulars in Ollie and Chris, as well as a special guest appearance from Rose. So since we last did one of these about a fortnight ago or so, there's been a lot of things that we can catch up on and kind of just talk about here. So it all depends on really where we want to start. Is there a certain topic that everyone would like to go into first?
Should we start with transfers? Because I know from the last vidcast that yourself and Jamie did, we've had a little bit of movement in that area, and I feel like it might be good to just do a little bit of a full recap of ins and outs and kind of talk about that.
Yeah, good show. The day after we filmed the vidcast, in typical fashion, Priestley Faxon departed, which was absolutely lovely to have, while also having the issues of the video not saving. But yeah, I think that's a decent talking point to start off with. Was that a surprise in the terms of where he went to, or the fact that he did leave?
Definitely surprising where he left to. I think we were all expecting him to go straight to a club in League One, so I think Walsall was definitely a bit of a surprise. But if you do more digging into Walsall, like I've spoken to some of their fans, they've got better links in League One than us, and they've got more of a budget. And ideally, like if League One is his goal, Walsall isn't the worst of moves because of their links and their budget.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point to make, because although Walsall and County are in League Two, and we're both somewhat predicted to finish around that mid-table area, especially with the strength in League Two this season, you look at Walsall, they've probably got better training facilities. It's probably an area he's a bit more familiar with, and I think it's fair to say if you look at current squads, Walsall is probably a bit more advanced and a bit stronger than our squad. So you can't really blame him for making the switch there. But I think, as Rose said, I think we was all shocked because we were expecting him to go to a League One club, or maybe even a League Two club with the potential to get promotions or strong favourites for playoffs.
I mean, for me, it's an area of concern. Now, Cameron Norman, I can understand, but I still don't understand why he didn't go to a higher club than MK Dons, considering they're still League Two. Walsall, yeah, I mean, they got a better infrastructure. They got better facilities than us. And most of the clubs in League Two are going to have, better infrastructure and facilities than what we've got. But I'd like to think that at our club, a lot of players have progressed their careers, quite resoundly. I mean, you look at the likes of Ben White, who've gone on and done what he's done. You look how good Finn Azaz is coming along, and the likes of Ollie Cooper. Being at Newport County isn't exactly, a detrimental thing to your career. So the concerning thing for me, and there's always going to be an attraction for them players who have stayed with us. The concerning thing for me is, why are these players making these somewhat sideward steps? I mean, yeah, there's a few advantages to moving, but when you're in a group that you're used to being around, where you got a manager who can help you, especially because three of the players who we've lost lately are defenders who are going to work with an established defender, in a manager. I personally think Farquharson's game has improved defensively since working with Coughlin. So why move on? And I've got two people in mind, because I speak to some of the players, and I'm not going to name any of these players. I do speak to quite a lot of people connected with the club, and there are two players who've told me that there are a lot of questionable things going on at the club, which they say that they've never known to go on. I'm maybe dropping a little bit of a bombshell here, but I'm not going to name the director himself, but apparently a director suggested to our players last season that they should look at taking a second job so the club can pay them less money. And then this player turned around to him and said, right, okay then, but what if, we're going to take jobs then, get second jobs, but we're not going to be available on a Saturday or a Tuesday night because we're going to be working the second jobs. And apparently this director said, well, you can't do that. And it's like, well, we're not going to get second jobs then. I think that is awfully tin pot of a football league professional club to even contemplate that, let alone actually suggest it to the players. Now, if that's the kind of conversation that's going on between directors and players, what the hell is going on where these players are willing? I mean, Aaron Lewis doesn't even have a contract and he's left. I mean, that's absolute madness. If things don't work out at Mansfield, he's left in the wilderness then. So something's made him want to leave. I understand that's a bit of a bombshell there, but I've actually been saving this for this video, for this next vidcast that we do. I mean, what do you guys think of that?
Oh, that's like you said, that's definitely a bombshell, right? So obviously we've learned from the AGM meetings, and one that came in between us recording last vidcast and this one, we've learned that understandably being a fan-owned club is meaning that we're not exactly the best financial club in the world, but the idea of players having to take second jobs, if that is something you suggest, that is an actual thing that's happened, then that, like you said, that's a tin pot kind of EFL club situation. You only really see that in a non-league kind of situation where players are playing second jobs and then actually playing football. Like, I only really hear that in Sunday League, which is if that's the situation where we're at, to where we can't afford to have players that deserve a decent amount of money, if we can't afford to have them on that money, and or at least nearabouts that, and then you've got to wonder, is there something that is potentially hidden within the financial ruins, so to speak, that we kind of got? Is there something bigger than that, to where we have to potentially worry a bit more than what we are now?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't really know the ins and outs. I mean, the actual AGM. So it turns out what I thought was the AGM that I went to, which was the first of the two meetings. The AGM was prior to the second meeting, the actual owners' AGM. So only those people who went to that are privy to the actual financial statistics for the football club. So now, I don't know what truth there is in that. All I can say is that it is a former player of ours. I'm not going to name, because they told me in confidence, I'm not going to name them. And because of the possibility of it not being true, I mean, because of an ex-player, it could be somebody that has got a bit of a chip on their shoulder with the club. But from what I know of them, I wouldn't believe that. But just in case it's not true, I'm not going to name the director who's made this claim either. But I just thought that was just so alarming that, are we really in that bad of a financial position? And are we really suggesting this to professional football players, that they need to get a second job so we can pay them less? And that's been in my mind now, with the knowledge of players leaving and the rumours of us offering them contracts with pay cuts and expecting them to accept them, although Graham Cochran is suggesting to the media that we're offering competitive contracts to these players, and he's very disappointed that they haven't taken us up on the offers. So there's a lot of things that are conflicting at the moment. I just, not in a good place of trying to work out what's right and what's wrong in the situation.
I don't believe it's a bit of a nightmare. I think that's a situation with a lot of football clubs, to where there's one thing said here, another said there, to where you don't know what's true and what isn't. But of course, there's going to be a lot of people that take the bad as opposed to the good, that we can't offer players competitive contracts and they're leaving because of the offers of jobs. And yeah, it all dependent on which one is right, depends on what level of concern we're at.
Yeah. Then the thing is, go on. Sorry, Ollie, go on, mate.
If we're on the topic of concerning contracts and players leaving, should we talk about Mickey Demetriou, or have we gone more to add on this? On this
ourselves well for that, haven't we? To be fair, go on.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah, so it came out last night. We're filming this on Sunday evening, so I believe Saturday was yesterday, if I'm thinking right. The
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Then I finally know my days. So I've got to start to learn how to count next. Saturday evening, BBC Radio Wales had a live interview with Graham Coughlin, and obviously one of the topics to come up was Mickey Demetriou, whether he's with the club, whether he's signing, whatnot. I've not listened to the interview in full, but I feel that essentially what was said is that Mickey Demetriou isn't with the club, and we've offered him a contract and he said no. Obviously, I think Keiron will know more on this situation than myself, but as all accounts at the moment, it looks like Mickey Demetriou is gone and won't be returning to the club.
I mean, yeah, the actual interview is that Coughlin said that Mickey's left the club, his contracts ran out, and that the contract offered was competitive, supposedly, but he hasn't taken it, and there go, has departed the team. I think the thing that the reason this is such a good talking point is that usually when you see player departures, the announcement from BBC Sport Wales or whatever they are, and the announcement from the club tends to come within a decent time frame of each other. It usually doesn't take 24 hours plus. So there's the conspiracy of why hasn't it been announced yet, especially when you consider how long he's been at the club in comparison to players that have already departed the club beforehand, Aaron Lewis-Ferguson, whatever else. So I think the nice little conversation starter is, why hasn't he been announced as gone? Why have we not heard anything from the player? And more importantly, why is this interview taking place, but why is it taking place with a situation where we don't have any confirmation from the club? Because I don't know about you lot or anyone watching, but I tend to hold back on my assuming something is 100% confirmed until it's from the club.
I mean, has anybody actually heard what actual wording was used by Coughlin?
I've got it up now. The exact kind of thing that was said was Mickey's left the club. His contract ran out at the end of June. We put a contract in front of Mickey the first week of May. He's not taking us up on the offer. So apparently he's been in constant dialogue over the summer and tried to twist his arm and convince him to stay.
Yeah.
On Friday night, I had a conversation with him and told him I was about to drive over to his house and bundle him in the back of my car and bring him back. It wasn't successful, which again, you're losing a leader. You're losing his leadership, a right to call him the dressing room, a right to call him the club for the past 7 years. I tried to play the emotional card with Mickey regarding the next couple of seasons, going into coaching, maybe if he fancied going into recruitment, whatever he wanted long term. And also I tried to bribe him with a testimonial if he made 10 years. So I tried everything. But look, we're not competitive enough, and that comes from the financial side of from the financial side of the league. We just can't hold on to these type of guys. And the annoying part on my side is if we're losing players to clubs like Harrogate and Oldham, I'm losing players to the likes of Grimsby. Where annoying part is on my side is if we're losing players to clubs like Harrogate and Oldham, I'm losing players to the clubs like Grimsby. I know all of them are in a different league, but imagine Harrogate and Grimsby. We're both fighting the same neck of the woods in the league, so it's very, very challenging, shall we say. So there's a lot more that goes into that, but in short, supposedly a contract has been offered on the table. Coughlin's tried to have all these other tried to say all these other things to try and convince him to stay, whether that's a offer into recruitment, managerial stuff, whatever else. And he's not taking it because we're not competitive enough and we're not able to fund potentially what he demanded. Whether that meant a wage cut or not is a different question.
Yeah.
No,
It's as Keiron said in that little quote there about you're not just losing a player, you are losing a leader. And I know Rose feels quite strongly about what Mickey brings to the club, both as a player and as a leader. If you want to kind of expand on that, Rose.
Sorry, can you say that last bit again?
I'm just talking about kind of what Mickey brings to the club, not only as a player, but as a leader in the dressing room as well.
Yeah, I know. It's just so frustrating at the minute. He's definitely a good leader. He looks after the team, and he's very vocal on pitch towards the other defenders and just any player around him. I feel like he is a big person to lose if we're losing him. But what the main confusing thing again, like Keiron said, is that BBC Wales have said that he's gone, and so is Graham, but nothing's been announced. So my thinking is that maybe because he is a loyal person to the club, I know we said that before about other people, but I just feel like he's waiting for a better offer because he doesn't want to leave. Fingers crossed, but I'm just, hoping that they give him a better offer for whatever it is that he's not happy about. And I'm hoping that he's hanging on to the, last bit of hope that they're going to offer him something slightly better.
Yeah, I'm with Rose on this one. I've got to know Mickey quite well since he's been at Newport. Like I say, he's a great guy. He likes being here. His family is settled here. And the thing is, at this point in his career, I don't think a move away, after uproot his family again, a move away, unless it's going back into the Shropshire area or somewhere close to that, I don't see why a move would make sense for him. Why would you start again at a new club? Unless it's going to be one of the likes of Swindon or Forest Green, which is commutable from Newport. So I suppose if I was in his shoes, that's what I would want to do. I would want, because he knows he's going to be the captain. He knows he's going to be the focal point, the leader, the one that everyone's going to look up to. And I can remember when he was first offered vice captain. I think it might have been 2018-19 season. He was offered the vice captain behind Labardi, and his wife was talking to my father-in-law, talking about how proud he was to be the vice captain, and how much it really meant to him. So for me to be the main man at this football club, being as he's been here so long, I believe that would mean an awful lot to him. So is he being offered the right deal financially? Because, like I say, we are hearing rumours of players being offered contracts with pay cuts. I mean, we can't be expecting people to take a pay cut. It's quite simple. And for me, yeah, I would rather have Mickey than two new centre-backs. That's just me.
I mean, for me, it depends on the quality of of these two centre-backs. If we were to have an either-or kind of option, we'd need at least one of those players to have that leadership, that kind of strong mentality, if we were to replace him with two other centre-backs, potentially younger, less experienced, whatever else. But like Coughlan said here, like we've all said here, he's very much a leader. He's kept the team together. Coughlan, we know, is a very defensive-based coach. So to have that defensive prowess in Dimitri, someone who knows the club in and out at this point, it's a detrimental thing to lose. And I think I'm with you, Chris, in that I'd rather keep him than bring in two centre-backs that are entirely new to the club, because while it's more in terms of numbers, we know that Mickey's conditioning is very good to a point where he'll rarely get injured, if at all. So it's a situation of, I don't think we can replace the experience and the mindset that he's had with different players as hard as we could try.
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, every successful League Two club, right, is based around three fundamental parts of their team: the goal scorer, the kind of goalkeeper that's going to make the relevant saves to earn you an extra 10 to 15 points a season on their own, and that leader. I mean, the rest of the players around make up the rest of the team, but that's where you blow your biggest chunks of your budget is on those three areas. Now, we got the potential up front with the goal scorer with Bogle. We got two goalkeepers between them that will not just do 10 to 15, but 15 to 20 because there's two of them. So the strong leader, personally, I don't see another strong leader other than Mickey Dimitriou potentially for next season. So that's a new player we need to bring in.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I definitely think we've got options to not necessarily replace, but have those that mindset, the mentality that can bring them to options of captaincy. But I think in terms of all and out leader, that is a mindset that can't really be taught. It's something that you kind of develop alongside, or sometimes you have it or you don't. So yeah, I think while we have definite players that are worthy and capable of being captain, vice captain, if Mickey is to confirmed to be gone, I don't think we have someone at that caliber of knowing how to be a captain as Dimitriou is.
yeah, no.
Whilst we're on the whilst we are on the topic of arrivals and replacements, should we talk about the four new lads who we've brought in?
Yeah, let's go for it.
We've went into a bit of a depth on, I believe it was Nathan Wood and I'd like to say Bryn Morris, but I'm sure we can go for a recap. I'm sure the people watching wouldn't mind. So
the four players we've currently signed, and I do stress currently signed because we have quite the track record of recording these just before major announcements come out. So unless the club are planning to announce some new signings at 9 p.m, I think we should be all good. The four lads we have brought in, Bryn Morris, the central midfielder, Nathan Wood, who I still don't know where he's going to play, whether he's in the midfield, whether he's striker, whether he's left back. Kyle Jamieson, who's more than likely definitely a centre back, and Matthew Bondswell, he left back from Newcastle on loan. Rose, what do you think about the four players we've brought in, and have we brought in the same quality as the players who have left?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know little to nothing about these new players. I think the guy from Newcastle might be quite interesting, simply because they're from a higher league, but honestly, I can't really give you my thoughts because I just don't know enough about the players.
I think that's sort of the story of pre-season as well, is obviously if the well-versed in League Two, you probably hear the name of Bryn Morris and maybe Kyle Jamieson, but you never really know what you're getting until you see them play. So I think it's a mixed bag. Bryn Morris and Kyle Jamieson bring League Two experience, which I think if you look at the makeup of our squad is definitely something that you could say we might be lacking in. Nathan Wood is obviously going to be a bit of a fairy tale story. 26, was in the academy. He's now got his break in EFL football playing for his boyhood club. And as Rose said, Matty Bondswell from Newcastle, higher league. He's not got much experience in senior football, but he has got the potential. He comes with a lot of good reviews from Newcastle fans. So I think as a four, it's definitely interesting. And I definitely feel that we are going to see more sooner rather than later.
With Bondswell, I'm not sure if I've seen right or not, but I'm sure he was at Shrewsbury last year on loan.
Yeah.
He didn't play a single game, unfortunately, though, but he was there. So, Yeah, that's Matty Bondswell seems to be an interesting one. Like Ollie said, he comes with good review off of Newcastle fans from the kind of interview he gave when he joined. He seems to be in a similar way that Keban Ryers seems to be very level-headed and knows what to do with the. For being a young player, he seems to have the right mindset and have that potential work ethic to go forward and perform well. But I think what we've got to kind of take, I'm going to go into Matty Bondswell a lot more because the other ones I've had a lot more of a say on. But Matty Bondswell, I feel like he's one that we could have turned into a very good player. We've seen, I believe, I'm not going to say this is 100% right, but I believe Ben White, when he joined us, had little to none, if not no, EFL experience. So to have that as a kind of not aim as we expect him to go on and have the qualities of Ben White, but rather it's something that we've seen happen before where a player has no EFL experience and tends to do well. But I think we've got to be cautious that because this is his first senior loan move, and especially you're jumping up from the youth levels of the Premier League all the way down to League Two, it's a very different way of playing. You've got to kind of adjust your play style to fit to this league as opposed to the Premier League Academy or whatever the league's actually called. But yeah, I think it's one that definitely he could perform. Of course, he is in the similar position that Aaron Lewis is in terms of on the field. So when he was brought in, I kind of had the feeling that Aaron Lewis was gone right then and there. So there's that's a situation. Of course, you're gonna, if a player is brought in a position where your player you normally know plays there is running out of deal, it kind of gives you a bit of suspicion that you've lost your senior player who's run out of contract. But yeah, Matty Bondswell, I think we've got to be very wary because it is his first loan move. We've kind of got to give him potentially a month, 2, maybe even 3 to adjust to the situation involved in the league, because I understand Coughlin and Dunn will do incredibly well in terms of developing his fitness and everything in preparation, but there's developing fitness and developing a play style that works well in League Two.
I mean, to be fair, it took Adam Lewis, even though Adam Lewis had a few loan moves, it took him a bit of time to actually get going with us last year. And you quite rightly point out that Ben White didn't have any senior football under his belt at all. I think you've got to look at this being an advantage of the new format of the Papa John's Trophy, where the under-23 teams are involved, because I know Matty Bondswell has played for the Newcastle under-23s in that competition against clubs in League Two and League One. So, I think he would have got a taste of those kinds of teams and how to play with and against them. So hopefully that would have set him up well for playing with us next season. But you find with a lot of these that sometimes it works with some players at some clubs, sometimes it doesn't. You look at all of the signings that we've made. Grimsby fans have been running Bryn Morris down. Some Tranmere fans, although some of them have praised Carl Jameson, some of them have said that he's crap. But who remembers Emmanuel Osadebe, who played for us? We had him on loan from Cambridge. And then he went off and he played for Macclesfield and was their best player for 2 seasons. And he was one of the best players in the league. Mitch Rose, who played for us during our Great Escape season and was absolutely dreadful for us, and then went to Grimsby the season after and was their best player. So it just goes to show it's very much horses for courses. And what you find with Newport is that the loan players are the ones that tend to flourish more than the regular signing. But then I suppose Dom Talford is an example of where the regular signings have come good. Priestley Farquharson as well. I mean, playing for Newport has its benefits because people would have seen players perform and grow and improve while they played for us, and they've gone on. Well, I say they've gone on. Dom Talford didn't exactly go on. He took a big downward step in the end, but I mean, Ben White is a perfect example, and there's plenty of other loan players that we've had who are doing well. I mean, Semenyo is in the Premier League now. Ollie McBurney, a former loan player of ours, but barely had any time at Swansea, came on loan to us, scored a hat-trick on his debut, and then he ended up in the Premier League as well. So I just like to think that there's a good vibe around Newport and these bigger clubs and who they want to send their young players out to. And well, one of the other points I was going to make on top of the makeup of a League Two team, playing the loan market in the right way is one of the most important things you can do. A lot of the time, playing the loan market right could determine which area of the league table you're going to find yourself in. And if we play the loan market right, the current business that we've done may be good enough if we get the right loan players in. But like I say, it's all an unknown at the moment. We just started pre-season. There's still players to come in. There's still one more that we need confirmation of, who's leaving. Let's see what the summer brings. Let's not get on the negative vibe that a lot of our so-called supporters are getting on, saying that we're going to be lucky to stay up. It's like we haven't even put our full squad together yet. We haven't even kicked a competitive ball yet. I mean, give them a chance,
Exactly. It's like you mentioned with players getting abuse and kind of pelters from rival fans. I think the best example of that is Omar Bogle. When he came in last summer, we had a whole plethora of fans from all different clubs saying, "Unlucky lads, he's terrible, he won't do much." And he came, I believe, 5th in the Golden Boot race last season with 17 goals. So, League Two is a very interesting league. Just because you don't do well at one club doesn't mean you're not going to do well at another club. So, yeah, I'm happy with what we've got at the moment.
I mean, there's only little you can do in terms of in just the entirety of League Two, especially in terms of looking at a squad on paper. You can say that it's going to do well because you've got your mix of big name players, you've got your mix of EFL experienced players, but it's not until a ball's been kicked and the season's kicked on that you know where a team's going to finish. If we take Stevenage from last season into a consideration, they were in relegation worries throughout, I believe, the season before they received to go up. So it's a situation of, do we have not necessarily the players, but are they going to work well under Coughlin's setup? Because we know that he's got a lot more of a consistent defensive-based thing. But what is that going to mean rather for the attackers? Are they going to be able to perform how they potentially would usually at their clubs they were formerly at? So yeah, it's a very unpredictable league, and it's an interesting one. If I'm to look on paper, I'm very happy with what we've brought in. And like we've said, I'm sure there's going to be more arrivals as well as the confirmer of potentially one more departure.
I mean, you look at some of the teams that have gone up lately. I mean, Stevenage is the perfect example from last season, but in previous seasons, Morecambe, I mean, a lot of people fretting over the fact that we're having a big turnover in the squad. We're losing players and we're having to bring more players in. Morecambe had to bring 12 new players in that season. I mean, it was a bit of a Derek Adams, axe job, mind you, but they still had to bring in 12 new players. They lost a lot of their better players, and one of those players they brought in was Cole Stockton, and and a few others, and they got promoted. I mean, at our expense, as much as whether they deserved it or not, they still got to that playoff final. So, with that team that they had to put together on what would have been one of the lowest budgets in the league. I mean, it just goes to show if you've got the right setup, you've got the right characters. That's one of the main reasons why Mickey would be so important to be within that squad. If you've got the right characters and the right setup, the right gaffer and the right tactics, the right backroom staff, you've got that right, that good blend. There's no limit to what you can achieve. I mean, Steve Evans is a top manager, and he always has been at our sort of level. And he took Stevenage up. Accrington are another one that managed to climb that league. I mean, I wasn't expecting Carlisle to do as well as they did last season as well. So there's always a surprise package. And
Barrow, they were what was it, their third season in the EFL. Barrow even were in that playoff contention for a good majority of the season. So it just goes to show that you can sign as many big name players as you want, but it all depends if they work well within the system the manager's portraying to them, and if the backroom staff are able to keep them fit and prevent as many injuries as possible. It's a lot more than just what big names are brought in. There's a lot more to what goes to a football team than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like Keiron says, you never really know what's going to happen until a ball's being kicked. And a ball was kicked multiple times yesterday as we kicked off pre-season against Dundee. Chris loved that one, I know.
I love that. Smooth.
The annual pre-season match against Dundee, we ran out 4-0 victors. The goals coming from Bryn Morris, Keiron Rye, and James Waite. Pretty good result and pretty good performance, even considering the kind of stats of the opposition. But I'd be interested to know how you felt, and we did miss quite a few chances, so that 4-0 scoreline could have been much higher. But as a starting performance goes for start pre-season, how did you feel about that?
Well, can I just mention that the way that you changed that subject then was pristine. That was absolutely superb. It was nearly as good as Keiron's introduction. Nearly as good as Keiron's introduction, to be fair.
I'll take it.
But don't let me hog it. Go on, so somebody else can talk about this. I wasn't at the game, so there's not a lot I can offer.
I also wasn't at the game, but I've seen clips of what's happened at the game, and I'm very conscious that I've had a fair bit of waffle here, so I'll allow the rest of you to have a bit more of a talk if you've seen the game. But I guess the little amounts that I have to say is the Bryn Morris free kick was superb. Understandably, the keeper could have probably done better, but it's pre-season, you're not really going to expect the best of the best, and I think the annual pre-season fixture against Dundee is always a good stepping stone to kind of realise potentially where we're at, because we're in a situation where, not to insult Dundee, but you can tell a very distinct situation with quality, so it gives a very good chance for us to see where we're at. If it shouldn't be on paper, like I've said, a close contest. So it's always a nice one to bring up morale of the team, fitness levels, all of that. From what I've seen, there are fewer kind of tired legs towards the final 20 minutes, but kind of what you expect from a pre-season game. It's like I've said, it's a situation where all the players are back from holiday and they're now able to play. But I think one of the key aspects, as well as Bryn Morris having the good one half of football that he did have, was that Keiron Rye got himself a brace in that game. And the second one was, from what I saw, a very composed finish, and it's one that you'd expect a senior striker to put in. So for someone who's only really developed through the youth academy as far as this season is concerned, then it's something that we can look into and kind of have optimism that Rye is going to have a very promising, very good season for the situation he was in last season, where really nobody knew his name until the end of it. So it's an exciting one. It was one that, like I said, I've seen clips of. Harrison Bright seems to have done well from what I was told. Yeah, it's one that I don't think any of us can complain on. Maybe we can complain about the fact that we probably could have scored 8, 9, and we've only scored 4, but at the end of the day, so long as we've won the game, and it was by a convincing number, it's not really anything of concern.
I mean, I was calling him Keiron Rye, like the Brazilian midfielder from the 90s, who was spelt his name the same way, but he was just Rye. So I've been calling him Rye until someone said it was Ray or whatever. Doesn't matter.
I've been for some reason switching between Keiron and Keiron. I believe it's Keiron Rye, but I'll find out as the season goes further, I'm sure.
Yeah. But the most pleasing thing for me to come off of that was the manager's comments at the end about the energy levels, that the players had a very, very tough training session the day before, but were able to exceed his expectations as far as their energy levels were concerned. So that tells me that there's work rate and effort there, and there's fitness there. I mean, obviously they've still got a lot of work to do, but that was what was most pleasing for me. Go on, Ollie, I think you wanted to jump in at some point then, didn't you?
Yeah, pre-season does sound quite intense under Graham Coughlin, because I know he said in an interview yesterday that the lads trained on Friday, quite a tough training session, and then had the match on the Saturday. I believe they're off today, back in training tomorrow, and then they've got another game against Pontypool on the Tuesday. So for Coughlin to be surprised by the energy levels and the sort of performance we're putting in, even after quite a strenuous training session, is quite positive to see.
So I hate to be the know-it-all that corrects people, but it's Pontypridd we're playing on Tuesday.
I was going to say it, but I didn't want to guarantee it just in case I was wrong. So I
I've not got a clue. I'm not Welsh.
It's finally got one over me. It's finally got one over me. Every time it's been me correcting you, and you finally got one over me. So
we're going to be clipping this one, Ollie, and this one isn't dying down. This one isn't dying down.
Right, there we go.
I'm going to milk it. I'm going to absolutely milk it.
But no,
I'm hopeful of going to that one on Tuesday, to be fair. I'm hopeful of going basically with my job. I'm going to be in Aberthaw in the afternoon with a customer. So it is literally going to the top of Cardiff and jumping on the A470, and it's 10 minutes away from there. So it could be an opportunity for me to go straight from work. So I'm looking at going £4 to get in, bargain. Undy was a tenner. That was one of the reasons why I didn't go there, if I'm being honest. But yeah, £4, Pontypridd, that'll do me. Happy days.
Not bad. I mean, if we're to take anything from the past game, it should be, well, from the game against Undy, is that the hope is that the energy levels, while gradually improve, they are going to improve. Players are going to be more sharp, and potentially we're going to score more than 4 in a game where we could have scored 8 or 9 by the looks of it, off of all the people that I've talked to that went to the games. It's an interesting one. I'm hoping to be also there, but we'll have to see how it goes.
I wish.
if I remember right, our pre-season, our opening pre-season game of a season generally tends to indicate how well we're going to do in the season, because if I remember right, the season we nearly went down when York and Dagenham and Redbridge went down, that was 2016. I believe we lost 2-1 to Undy in that opening game. And the season after that, Undy wasn't the first one. Caldecott Time was the first one. And I believe we got a last-minute equaliser in that one to draw 2-2. And Lionel John Lewis got injured for near enough the whole season, which is what scuppered our chances in League Two that year, and nearly sent us down, really, because he was our main striker at the time. But then the seasons we've got into playoff finals, we've actually played Undy first and won there. So whenever we play Undy and win, we tend to, end up doing well. I don't know. That's just a superstitious bit of nonsense, maybe. But
I mean, I think one thing we can be happy about is that you've mentioned we've had season kind of ending injuries in these pre-season games. So it's nice that we've got past Undy without a season-ending injury, but we have supposedly had an injury of some form in that of Declan Drysdale, who's supposedly out until around October time, which is a lovely little lead into a potential new player who we are now linked with. I'm going to just get up his name so I don't mess it up, but 21-year-old Keiron Gordon, defender, 21 years old, recently released by, let me just find out, Sheffield United. So I tried to contest with Ollie there on the cleanest transition, but there we are. We'll see how that one went.
Prepared as always. Yeah, whilst we're on the topic of players coming in and sort of try lists, Ethan _GN __ on Twitter says, I feel that try list number 3, Jacob Mensah, was impressive and looks to have good quality. What did you think of him? So Jacob Mensah was one of the centre-backs who I believe played in the first half. He looks quite impressive. He's just been released by Turkey, so he is coming up a level. But I feel like, as we've touched upon with the budget and the financial side, we're not really going to be bringing many players in from above. So would it hurt to look at leagues below? I don't think so. He looked more than competent yesterday, quite good on defence, and he was quite imposing as centre-backs go, quite tall, and he seems to put in a good performance. I'm not sure if any of you have got any thoughts on Jacob Mensah, or
not to piss on anyone's chips or anything like that, but against Sunday, he's not exactly going to look bad. And he did just get relegated from the National League and then get released by Turkey. Now, I don't know whether he left on his own accord or he didn't get offered another contract, but I mean, there's the bargain basement, then there's that kind of caliber. Nothing against him. He may be great. It may be one of those things where, okay, you know, if he got a shot at League Two, he may stand out. Maybe he was one of the better performers for Turkey and one of the reasons why they even had a shot at saving themselves towards the end of the season. But I don't know. That bothers me a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think it is understandable to be a little bit worried about there, especially when you put alongside the fact that there was a rumour going round about 2 weeks ago that we were looking at Kurt Willoughby from then Chester, who's now signed for Oldham, Chester being National League North. So if we are looking at players, is National League North, National League South the right area to be looking at? There's arguments for and against that. The player that always comes to mind when we talk about relegations for me is Aaron Ramsdale. Prior to joining Arsenal, he had 2 relegations on his CV, one with Bournemouth, one with Sheffield United. Goes to Arsenal, team who's more established, probably has better facilities and a better setup than the likes of Sheffield United. And he gets turned into arguably one of the best keepers in the league. So just because we are bringing players from a lower league doesn't mean they're lower league quality. So I guess it is just the case of, if we do end up signing him, we've got to give him a chance and kind of hope for the best.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good point. But then, if you had to give me the choice between someone like that and somebody who's being let go from a setup like Sheffield United, I think I know what I would lean towards.
Yeah. So I feel like we've waffled on a lot, especially Keiron, but that is what he does best. So to finish on one question that I really liked from Leos Maxwell Gilliams on Twitter: what's a realistic finishing position for this season? I know we're a little bit early on and there's still transfers to be made in and out and free seasons to be paid, but as of now, where would you be hoping for us to finish in the league?
Realistically, anything above 23rd would, kind of be a level of contentment. But like we've all said earlier, there's very little to know about what you can expect until a ball's been kicked, until a few actual competitive games have been played. So yeah, I'll say for my own purposes of not saying we'll finish top half and then we finish in the bottom half, anything above 23rd, I'm happy with. So here we are.
Yeah.
I'm going to say mid-table.
Optimistic, I like that.
I mean, yeah, I'd be contradicting myself a little bit because I've obviously been pointing the finger at them. They'll be lucky to
Sorry about that.
yeah, as well.
Like, you know,
No, that's just my
Pretty
opinion, little
sorry.
one. You know, it's just my opinion. Don't need to
I'm
take it.
seeing as we're waffling, I'm going to have to go.
Yeah,
But
mean,
now
you-
would be the best time because you could cut this little bit out.
yeah, you've given the position finish. So
Yeah.
appreciate
For the better part of
Thank
50
you for
minutes
having me.
anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, you're in the better part of 50 minutes of this.
Thank you for having me.
Realistic finishing position. I was going to say anything above 23rd, but Kieran's already given that answer, so I can't give that. That'd be boring. So I'm going to stick my neck on the line. I'm going to say 18th. I think we was all a little bit surprised of how well we did towards the back end of last season. A majority of it we spent in a bit of a relegation scrap. So for us to kind of pull away towards the end of the season, I think we finished 15th. I'm going to say 18th.
I was thinking around about that, but then again, I mean, I don't know whether it's too early to be able to give an effective answer to that question, to be honest with you. As it stands right now, with the current squad that we've got, yeah, I'd be leaning more towards the 18th position. But then we've only got one loan player, which means I believe we can get another 4 loan players who can all play in the same matchday squad. So there's plenty left for us to play with within the loan market.
Yeah.
There is also
a total of 7 loan players at the club and then 5 in the matchday squad. So if we really wanted to, we could bring another 6 loan players in, but it's likely we'll bring in probably another 4.
yeah, I think it's no good bringing in more than what you're allowed in a match day squad at one time, because at the end of the day, what if they're all very good and you've got to choose between 5 of 6 or 7 that you brought in, and 2 of them have got to miss out? We think, God, I wish I could have used that budget on some first teamers rather than that, so at least I can include them. Like I say, I think there's a minimum of 4 players to come in on loan. If Mickey is moving on, I'd imagine he is one of our more higher paid players. So that will free up wages for other players to come in. I mean, if you look at the players that I've left, Cameron Norman was Michael Flynn's marquee signing 2 years ago. I'd imagine he was on a decent screw as well. Aaron Lewis may not have been on as much because he was a youngster coming in who'd just been released by Lincoln. And then Farquharson wouldn't have been on overly much because we'd have brought him in from the Welsh League. So I'm just thinking of what kind of budget we're going to have left. What wage budget is available to offer players right now, and then how many players do we need? I think someone worked it out that we need around about another 7. Now, if we can cover 4 of those with loans and then another 3 permanent signings, then I think that puts us in a relatively comfortable position with regards to squad size. If it's within the budget to, I mean, we got to look at things like we got an influx of new trust members now. Is that going to have an effect on the budget? Because I believe that trust memberships would constitute, on football financial sort of categorization, as football fortune, because it's an input from ownership. Obviously, it's a supporters trust input. So 100% of the additional income from trust memberships can be used on the playing squad. The club is also going to be receiving a donation through the trust via a player fund set up by Rob Santris, which apparently we're getting to the point where there could be as much as 60k involved in that, which either part funds or fully funds a good player.
Yeah.
So let's see what comes of that, and then I'll personally be able to give a much more accurate expectation. But until then, I don't think I can give an accurate one. But if it is how it is now, I say 18th is the realistic finish, 18th and above. As long as if we do finish in that, there's not really much of a fear of relegation through the season. But to finish there's going to be, obviously. But as little fear as possible, because I hate being put in that position. But then with the potential for the signings that can come in, if we play the loan market, like I mentioned earlier, play the loan market well, there's no reason why we can't look at bettering what we did last season. And I know that's optimistic, to say the least. But it depends on how effectively we replace these players. I mean, if they've left so easily, with their hearts as in it as we would have liked them to be. I mean, it's all well and good having ability, but without the heart and the energy to play for the football club, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a good reason why we've talked about keeping hold of a player like Dimitri, who his heart is definitely in the club. He'll want to play. So yeah, there's difference between immediate quality and a want to play, and I'd rather personally have a team of players that want to fight for the badge that are potentially worse in quality on paper than a team full of potential League One players that don't have their heart into it as much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's the reason why Bradford have been in the division for the number of years they have now, when they should be top of the league easily every season, because of the support they've got, the income they've got. I mean, it's ridiculous that they haven't won that league. They haven't got promoted. They didn't even make. Did they make the playoffs this year? I don't know. Did they make the playoffs?
I believe
I'd like to say they did, and they went out in the semis to Carlisle, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah. So they've made the playoffs at least, but they should be top three every season easily. The only one of the top three that did go up, that I actually saw coming, was Northampton. Didn't expect Leyton Orient to be as good, although the season before they were reasonable. I didn't expect them to have the uplift that they had, and I don't think anyone expected Stevenage to do as well as they did. Obviously,
even in the playoffs, would you have put Carlisle to win it, or would you have put a team like Bradford, like Salford, or even just the other team that was involved in terms of funds and whatever? Stockport, yeah. I couldn't think of the name for whatever reason, but would you have put that? Would you have put Carlisle above them in terms of off of first impressions in terms of funds and everything? I don't think you would have. But
from the games that I saw last season, I wouldn't have put Carlisle anywhere near Stockport, but they managed to overcome them.
I mean, considering the fact that Stockport are now bookies odds favourite to win the league. Well, not favourite to go up along with Welsh club that will not be named and whoever else. So yeah, when you put it on paper, you can see who should go up, but it's football. Anything can happen. For all we're saying hopefully realistic things that we just don't go down and we're comfortable enough. But for all we know, we could go on a playoff run or even further. We won't know until the ball's kicked at the end of the day.
I'm calling it now. Wrexham away is the 23rd of December.
Yep.
We are going to see a Christmas miracle on that day.
Oh, I'll get the Christmas carols out ready.
I'll see that in the folder and I'll bring that up on the 24th of December after you worry.
Yeah. It's a chance for you to get your own back.
And we'll go back on it. To make sure this is recorded, and we'll go back on it after the fact.
Will be good. Right, I believe, gentlemen, we've been recording for nearly an hour now. So
yeah, I don't think there's much of it to cover, is there? I don't think
we've backed the hell out of it. And and to be fair, Rose hasn't missed out on much.
I mean, yeah, we can't really I don't think there's anything really to talk about. See you at Pondy Creek, I guess.
I'll leave you two with those pronunciations because I think it's been documented that I'm no good. But if you have enjoyed this vidcast, please drop a like, subscribe, leave any thoughts down in the comments below. If there is any topics you want us to talk about on the next vidcast, then drop them down below and we will get you involved. But I've been Ollie. Massive thank you to Taff. Massive thank you to Keiron. And a massive thank you to Rose, even if she isn't here. But as always, up the county.
Cheerio, everybody.
Take care.